Today, we're going to ponder term limits next on the Constitution Study.
There's one thing you have to know wherever you make your stand. Came from a long through line of everyday Americans.
Hello there, everyday Americans. Paul Engel here for another episode of Ponder This, the Constitution Study series where we're just taking ideas and I sit down and ponder them with you and get to hear what's going on. If you have a suggestion, head over to the website, constitutionstudy.com. Give me a suggestion of what you'd like me to ponder. Today, we're going to ponder term limits. This comes up every 2 years, 4 years. People start calling for term limits, constitutional amendments for term limits. If you do a little bit of research, the president is term limited. They're limited to 2 terms. And I kind of have this, I guess, somewhere between a love-hate relationship with term limits and an idea that most people, I think, don't necessarily like. See, the problem I have with term limits is there's a couple things. First of all, each and every office has a term limit potential. You can limit the number of terms any elected official has by simply voting them out. See, people look at term limits, they look at people who are in Congress for decades, 30, sometimes 40 years, and they go, that's too long. Well, that's fine, but we forget why they're there that long in the first place. They're there because a majority of the people they represent vote for them to stay that long. You see, and that's where this whole idea of term limits, I think, well, the 2 areas that it really bothers me is we think the problem is the people and not the process, the system. So let's say you have a representative and you think, I don't know, say 3 terms is enough. Pick a number, I don't care. The first thing you're doing is saying maybe you have a really, really good representative or a really, really good senator, somebody you think who's really doing their constitutionally required job very, very well. Then you're saying they have to stop, not because they're not doing a good job, but because we've established this artificial time frame for which they have to stop serving. So for those of you who think term limits are great, understand you're not only going to be removing people you don't like, you may potentially be removing people you like. But here's the other problem. Most people want term limits because they don't like who's in Congress. Or we did it for a president because we didn't like who was the president, not realizing that it isn't necessarily the individual. See, if you have a swamp rat in Congress and you say, okay, you can only serve 3 terms and then you're out, do you think they're going to be replaced by somebody other than another swamp rat? Do you think that just because the bodies change, the type of person that gets into that chair is going to make a difference? Like somehow this game of musical chairs that we play is going to make a difference. Look at the presidency. We went from a Bush to a Clinton to a Bush. We almost had another Clinton, but we ended up with these cycles because we throw one bum out, we bring another bum in. But you notice there is actually relatively little difference in what actually gets done. And in fact, when a president actually gets their agenda moved forward, it's an amazing thing because, wow, he actually did what he said he was going to do. We missed the point. See, the problem is not that they stay too long. If we simply term limit them out, we're going to replace one bad actor with another bad actor because we aren't dealing with how those bad actors got there in the first place. See, the other part is you're ignoring the will of the people who say, but we want this person. FDR was elected 4 times because he won 4 presidential elections. The only people who complained about that were people who they couldn't beat him. See, the only reason you want term limits is because you can't beat the guy that's already or lady that's already there. If we want to have true term limits, then it's up to the people to decide that's long enough. It is time to give someone else a chance and find a constitutional candidate to put in that position. And unfortunately, that's going to require work. is going to require more than just showing up on a Tuesday afternoon in November and flipping a lever or punching a button based on a party. That's problem number one. If we want to change it, if we want to get rid of, if we want to have the effect of term limits, first we have to stop voting party. Then we have to stop voting pocketbook. That's my other big deal. We have to really start voting based on the constitutional structures and the morals that were used to establish this nation. The next thing we have to do is stop waiting for November. We should be involved with candidates up into the primary. In fact, we should be before the primary. You should know who your officials are. You should be on a first name basis with them. You should know them and they should know you. And any candidate that wants your vote, you should know them and they should know you. And you should be able to look at their record, at what they've done, not what they said. I don't care what they say. A politician's lying when their lips are moving. I don't care what you say. Show me what you've done. Show me how you have upheld your oath to support the Constitution. Then when you've shown me that you can actually uphold the Constitution, then I'll consider what you have to say, and not before. See, then, rather than being worried about who is sitting in that chair, we're looking at the quality of the person that's even trying to sit in that chair. But you see, that actually takes work. We want a quick fix. We want a get-rich-quick scheme that says, oh, if we just pass this law or we just pass this amendment, all our problems are going to go away. No. All we're going to do is make the problems worse. Term limits, I believe, would actually make the problems worse because now, rather than being an individual in that seat, it really becomes the party. Because it's the party that's going to work to have a pipeline of candidates to fill that seat so that when the current occupant gets term limited out, their next person in line gets the seat. And you're going to have even less of an opportunity to learn about that person because the party is going to set them up. And I think it's just going to make more of a mess. I think it's going to, we're not fixing the problem. We're actually making the problem worse. If we take some time, step back, breathe, think about what happens if we institute term limits beyond the presidency. I don't even think we should have them for the presidency, except for the fact that the American people won't do their job. And it really is our fault. We have a job to do when we go to the ballot box and we're not doing it. We have a job to do to go to that ballot box prepared, to have standards, to determine who is qualified, not simply based on age and residency, but character, proven how they will act, proven their ability to support their oath of office. I heard a story about Daniel Boone when he was a representative. He was running for re-election to his House seat, and he was riding through Tennessee, and he came across a farmer, and he asked the farmer if he could he could count on his vote. The farmer said no, and Daniel Boone was rather taken back. He was a well-known, well-liked person, and he asked the farmer why. The farmer said, "Mr. Boone, you voted to take taxpayer money to give to charity to help certain people. Now, I understand the compassion involved, but you had no authority to spend taxpayer money on that outcome. And if you're going to violate your oath, you're not qualified for that position. I won't vote for you." That actually, as I heard it, floored Mr. Boone, because no one had ever confronted him that way, to say to spend the people's money on something that Congress is not authorized to is a violation of their oath of office, their oath to support the Constitution. And if he wasn't going to uphold his oath, this farmer couldn't trust him with his vote. Now, as the story was told, Mr. Boone promised to never do that again. He thanked the farmer for challenging him on that, and he promised never to do it again. Mr. Boone got reelected and had a storied career. But how many of us, when that candidate comes and says, "Can I count on your vote?" say, "Wait a second, have you upheld your oath of office? Truly, have you upheld that oath of office? And if I can't say for sure that you've upheld that oath of office, no, you can't have my vote. If you won't support the Constitution, you can't have my vote. I'll find somebody else." Maybe if we did that a bit more, we'd worry less about term limits. We'd worry a little bit more about the character of the people that are running for these offices, that are even being considered for these offices. What would happen if an entire legislative election, entire House election, was nothing but write-in votes? If we refused to vote the party line because none of them upheld their oath of office, what would they do when it came to the next election if they realized they couldn't simply buy us off with the promise of goodies? The problem with term limits is not the politicians, it's not even the parties, it's the American people and how we decide who will represent us. So I hope you found that interesting. I hope it made you think. It's part of this idea of pondering. If you have an idea you'd like me to ponder, head over to the website, constitutionstudy.com. Ask a question, contact me, let me know. Maybe you can sign up for the mailing list, see where I'm going to be, see what's going on, and consider maybe starting a group of your own. Anyway, this has been Ponder This on the Constitution Study. I hope to see you again next time on the Constitution Study. Have a great day.
There's one thing you have to know wherever you make your stand. Came from